Hello and welcome to Ham Nation, episode 490 for March 17th, 2021. Thanks so much for joining us. We're going to get started real soon. And hello, everybody. I'm Josh, KI6NAZ. Welcome to the Ham Radio Crash Course, hosting Ham Nation. Again, episode 490. We have a a packed show with a lot of people on tonight, so I hope you're all ready for a lot of fun, a lot of ham radio discussion, and some other cool stuff. But it's St. Patrick's Day, so let's flip it on over and welcome everybody. And just a reminder, we will do a bit of an after-show chat. It's on the Discord. The link is in the description. We also monitor the chat on the YouTube side, so make sure you're dropping your comments, and we'll take them as we go. All right? Well, let's say hi to the hosts here. Look at all the wonderful St. Patrick's Day outfits. I would like to point out I'm behind a green screen. That's why I'm not using green. I will hold up a green radio. Yes, this is a green radio, and you can see I can put it over Dawn. And, yeah, it's so I'm not green today. I apologize. But we'll start at the top here. Joe, how's it going?
Well, it's doing great. Kind of had a rainy few days here in Nebraska. Some time to put together some kits. And I'm going to talk about some tools for the beginning kit builder, things that you want to have on hand.
I do love good tool talk. Those are some of my favorite things is hand tools, so that's going to be fun. And in the guest hot seat, we've got Ray Novak. How's it going, Ray?
Going pretty good, just like you. Got a green screen, so not able to get it to key properly, but glad to be on here with everybody.
Very good. And below Ray there, Amanda's looking festive.
I am. Yeah. My one and only shirt that I own that is green. I told everyone, wear green, wear green. And then I went into my closet, and all I have is this HamCon shirt from 2015 that's green. So there you go. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone. Stay tuned. Send me your questions on chat. We've got some good interviews coming up this evening.
Indeed. And Dawn, also very festive. And you got a proper, those are like suspenders, right, that are on that shirt? That's nice.
Yeah, they are. And I even have a lovely pipe from Dublin.
There you go. It's a Peterson, right?
It is. It is. And I'm hoping that I'll make it all the way through the show tonight because we've got some pretty wicked rain coming through right now.
Seriously.
So,
very, very strong rain.
Tornado warnings and PDS, possible deadly situation, and all kinds of stuff going on down here. But we're going to talk to Kevin Duplantis, W4KEV, about what he's doing to get inactive hams back in the hobby and to help get new hams off on the right track. And they've got a couple of nets, and they're doing the right thing up there in the Knoxville, Tennessee area. And we've got a great solar report from Tabitha Scove right after Amateur Radio Newsline. So let's just get this thing going.
All right. I do want one big shout out. My wife got her technician license last weekend. So
yay!
Way to go.
She's a ham, and she's in the chat right now talking to Ray Novak, going back and forth. I see the jokes there. So, honey, great job.
Oh, man.
Thank you very much. Congratulations. Okay,
she
Amanda.
can do better than Ray.
Well, let's throw it over to Amanda. What do we got going on?
We have a really special guest tonight. We have John Amadeo, AA6JA. And again, I hate to have a technical difficulty right in the middle of stuff, but I'm still not seeing anybody's screen. I'm still seeing Joe's tools.
Oh, yeah. So my little pictures are the ones above it. But you're good. I've got it.
Okay.
So if you just keep rolling with it.
We're going to roll. So
are you in grid view, Amanda? Because that's what made it work for me. I was in the
I
wrong
want to
view.
go grid view.
Yeah.
I'm going grid.
Then you
I've got
see
grid.
us all.
I'm grid. Okay, so welcome, John. And he's here to talk about KA6 LMS. If you guys haven't heard about the special event yet, you've been hiding under a rock. That's the first thing I want to say. And John, do you want to talk about the event first, or would you like us to just roll with the video?
You know, I think it's a good idea to just roll with the video because it explains so many things, and I'll try to amplify whatever seems confusing.
All right, take it away, Josh.
Okay.
If you're a fan of Tim Allen's TV series Last Man Standing, you'll have a final chance to contact the show's amateur radio club station before it goes QRT.
This is KA0XTT73.
The week-long KA6LMS radio special event starts on March 24th at 0000 UTC and runs through 2359 UTC on March 30th. This will be an all-mode, all-band event.
CQ. This is KA6, LMS, Kilo Alpha 6.
This is Kilo Alpha 6, Lima Mike Sierra calling CQ.
Fans will have the opportunity to work the bonus one-by-one stations, K6L, K6M, K6S, W6L, W6M, and W6S. Stations from every call sign area will operate as KA6LMS/0 through KA6LMS/9 and KA6LMS/VE, providing nationwide and international coverage. The remote operators are a virtual who's who of ham celebrities, contesters, and podcasters. Many will live stream their operations.
Because so many of our KA6LMS stations will be live streaming. Josh, KI6NAZ will be operating as KA6LMS/6, re-streaming selected activations and doing a play-by-play on the action.
Our friends at the Amateur Television Network will also be re-streaming selected operations and transmitting through their repeaters in the US and Great Britain. Follow along on their YouTube channel.
Peter, W2JV, operating as KA6LMS/2, will be hosting a Last Man Standing trivia contest while operating. Prizes will be awarded for winners.
Look for Peter and all the KA6LMS stations on spotting sites like DX Summit.
We expect the on-stage radios to be in operation from the studio in California on Saturday, March 27th at 1800 UTC using 20 meters, and on Sunday at 2200 UTC using 40 meters. If you're a fan of digital modes, Saturday, March 27th is your day. At 1700 UTC, KA6LMS will be using D-Star on Reflector 12 Alpha, hosted by the Papa repeater system. At 1900 UTC, the D-Star action moves to Reflector 30 Bravo, hosted by Georgia D-Star. At 2300 UTC, AmateurLogic.tv will host the KA6LMS multimode QSO party, using All-Star, DMR, D-Star, NXDN, P25, Echolink, Ham Shack Hotline, Wires X, and Yaesu System Fusion.
For DMR users, in addition to the multimode QSO party hosted by AmateurLogic.tv on the evening of March 27th, you'll have 6 more opportunities to use that mode. DMR specialist Michael, AF6FB, will operate as KA6LMS on March 25th at 1800 hours and 2100 hours UTC. On March 27th at 1600 hours UTC. On March 28th at 2100 hours UTC. And on March 30th at 1800 hours and 2100 hours UTC. Please check the event webpage for talk group information.
KA6LMS QSL cards will be available for stations who contact the stage directly or through relay stations. Special event certificates, including clean sweep endorsements, will be available via download. The KA6LMS radio event is sponsored by the Great South Bay Amateur Radio Club's 12 Days of Christmas team and K2 Heroes teams. In association with AmateurLogic.tv, the Papa repeater system, and Georgia D-Star. And of course, Last Man Standing and KA6LMS have always been powered by Icom. For more information, go to www.gsbarc.org/LMS.
Thank you so much for that awesome video, John. And I know you spent a lot of hours on it. So the first thing, I'm not seeing a lot of questions in chat yet, but I know it's become apparent. A lot of people are saying, where are you going to be operating, what frequencies, and when and where? So if you want to try to answer some of those questions.
Oh, I think you're muted, John.
I was trying to be courteous. I wanted to say, first of all, that just watching the video is exhausting. So I can imagine working the actual event will be pretty terrifying. It's a tough answer. If your viewers have worked the 13 Colonies event or the 12 Days of Christmas event, they realize that there are no set times, there are no set frequencies, there are no set modes. All the control operators, and we've got like 60 of them now. There are like 60 people representing KA6LMS, will pick their favorite mode, their favorite band, and whatever time they're available and operate. And they'll usually operate for a couple of hours, which means as you tune around the bands in the event week, which is the 24th to the 30th, you're going to hear lots of KA6LMS stations, and you should just work them. They will be spotted on DX Summit and other spotting sites, and that's probably the best way to find them. When I work 13 Colonies and or 12 days, I usually take a look at DX Summit, and I can see where people are, or I'll just tune around on the band and see, where people are operating. The digital modes are actually pretty well defined, and they're all in that video. There's dates, times, talk groups, frequencies, reflectors. So they're pretty easy to find. And we did that for our international viewers and also the technicians and people that have, compromised HF stations. But from an HF standpoint, there will be people all over the country. So there's really no excuse. If, no matter what part of the country, and you're going to be able to hear some KA6LMS stations, and probably enough of them to get what we're thinking of as a clean sweep. No one's really defined what a clean sweep is going to be on this event. So it's whatever you want it to be. You want to work all the stations or all the Ks or the Ls or the Ms. You can do it. So I think that's the key. The key is to watch the website, because as you know, this is version 12 of that video, and it will keep updating as more things get added. It'll also it'll tell us, tell you where to go. But I would stick with DX Summit if I were an operator.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, I was calling CQ on 20 last Saturday, and a lot of people go to my QRZ page and they see the picture of us on the set, and they're like, oh, Last Man Standing. I really wanted to get a QSL card for them. So I've really been having some fun promoting this on air that people just didn't know yet that this event was coming. So second question is, how did you find these operators to do this? That was another one, is who are these people helping you make these contacts?
Well, when I thought about doing this event, I think everybody knows, or many people know, that we're in the process of filming our last 2 episodes of Last Man Standing forever, because the show is going to shut down after that. And I was going to do a 1-day, maybe 2-hour, event. And I mentioned it to some friends at the Great South Bay, which is a Long Island radio club that I belong to. And Lou and Sally, who run the 12 Days of Christmas event, and very competently, I might add, stepped up and volunteered to make it a slightly more complicated event. That is to say, let's do it for a full week, and let's have multiple operators. So now we're at a full week with about 60 operators in various call sign areas and special bonus point operators. And of course, I will work from the stage, and Rob, AA6RA, who you've met, who always operates from the stage, will be there too. So you'll be able to contact the stage directly through relays. All of the digital modes are inactive. So there's just so many paths into this event that there's really no excuse that if you wanted to contact KA6LMS and get our QSL card, this is really your chance.
Absolutely. And I had the pleasure of meeting Charlie from Victor Echo 7 Land, who said he was going to be part of the he has a YouTube show as well, and I can't remember what it is. I apologize, Charlie.
It's Ham Radio Canada, I believe. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Ham Radio Canada. And he was so excited about being able to do this. So the people that are going to be these relay stations, we are super stoked. Joe, I know you're excited. So we look forward to making contacts, and don't feel free to reach out and say that you haven't contacted our area yet, and we can definitely get on the air and help you out. Like, we're not snobs. So
we're hoping for multiple contacts. We would like people to get as many contacts as they can. It's a little bit like the sound check. You can check in many times, and you'll just get points and credits for it. And it's I love that one of our operators, Peter in New York, is going to do a trivia contest. So I did send him a box of things to give away, and that might be fun for some of the listeners.
That is going to be fantastic. I'm really looking forward to that. I'm going to listen into that. And the other thing that it was the inclusion of technicians. So that was a big thing, was to make sure all techs could could be involved and make contacts as well. One question we did have from them, our viewers was, is Tim Allen going to be participating in this at all?
It seems pretty unlikely. He's doing, first of all, I've never done a more stressful television show. This week and next week, we're doing our final 2 episodes of Last Man Standing. So they're huge. And as you can imagine, the security around them is tight, not just because of COVID, because we're trying to keep the storylines under wraps and trying to keep, people prying eyes off the stage and trying to keep people from stealing all of the props, especially the radios, because, if anybody's going to steal those radios, it's going to be me. But I've already got the shipping labels, and we know they go back to Ray in a couple of weeks. So that's just the way that is.
I saw Ray's eyes light up a little bit.
Yeah, no, the boxes are in my office and ready to pack everything back up and send them back. But, and then Tim, as we talked a little bit about in the pre-show, Tim is doing a whole other show already. He's doing a reality-based contest show with Richard Karn and called Some Assembly Required, which is pretty fun. If you're a Tool Time fan, that's your show. It's just like right out of Tool Time. And then, of course, the Toy Story things are still happening, and commercials, and not to mention he has a family, so he does get to see them once in a while. He's got a radio. We'll see if he chimes in. If he did, it would be under the KA6LMS call sign, which is one of the reasons we created it, so that you could have a little bit of anonymity if you were a celebrity and wanted to be on the radio. So, unless you can recognize that voice, and it's pretty recognizable, you may or may not, you'll never know who you're really talking to unless you ask.
Exactly. And I have one final question, and this I saw on Facebook, and it was an excellent question. Is KA6LMS going to keep going after the show?
Yeah, to some degree. I mean, there's 35 club members. The license is certainly going to be good. And I think that there'll be opportunities in the future to, like, milestone opportunities. For example, we will be releasing the season 9, which is what we're currently recording, into syndication in a few months. So that would be like an event that we could say, okay, today's the day that all the new episodes are going into rerun. So that might be a nice event to have. And those kinds of events, we could reactivate for that. It wouldn't be from the stage, because the stage will be somebody else's. As a matter of fact, we wrap on Wednesday the 30th. It's the last day of the special event. Within 4 days, we will be off the stage completely. And within another 3 or 4 days, there will be a whole other show on that same stage. Sad.
Wow. That's amazing. Well, John, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Anything else you want our viewers to know before this event takes place?
I just want them to work us and just make it. We want this to be a fun. It's not a competition. It's just a fun thing. Contact us. See how many of us you can contact on different modes and bands, different times of the day. And congratulations to Leah. That's all I really have to say.
Well, thank you.
Same. All right. Well, thanks for joining us tonight, John. We really appreciate it. Work us, everyone. Yep. All right. Josh, I think that leads us to you.
Yeah, I want to add really quick, too. There was a couple of questions on, how do you get involved with an event like this? Well, I did link to the website. It's in the chat room right now. I'm going to pull it up really quick. If you scroll down, right, and you scroll down, so let's say you're a technician. John mentioned technicians. If you go to the digital operations details and click on that, it'll open a PDF, and they've got everything on here. Echolink, All-Star, D-Star, DMR, you name it, it's on here. So if you've got a radio that's capable of working digital voice, you should be able to make contacts with people. And so that's just a starting point. Then, of course, there's HF and the digital stuff that goes into that as well. So make sure you're just figure out what you have the capability to use and then figure out how to use it, because there's a good chance you're going to be able to do it that way. So, yeah, thanks again, John, for hopping on. All right. So, Ray Novak, how are you doing, buddy? We got you. Oh, you're muted a little bit.
Doing pretty good, fumbling with the mute button here, and a little bit of lag between when it shows me that I clicked it one time instead of two.
Very good, very good. Well, thanks for joining us out here. You got a lot going on over on Icom, too. I recently just upgraded the firmware on my 705, for instance, and I know the 7300 just came out. What else? Do you have any other firmware things coming on down the pike or anything like that?
Nothing that I've seen yet. There's always something being worked on. The 7300, 9700 came out maybe 2 weeks ago. Everything is run together because while Amanda's going through Snowmageddon right now, We did the same thing in Texas at the end of February, where we had -4 degrees Fahrenheit. Uh, the houses and everything built down here is definitely not constructed to handle that.
Sure.
So we had the major catastrophe with our power grid and all that other kind of stuff. So finally started recovering from all of that.
I'll just ask this question because I'm curious. What radios were you operating during all of that? Were you at a period of time where you were out of power, out of internet, and you had to kind of use a radio?
Yeah, I mean, we had in some areas up to a foot of snow, and I think one of the comparison on the radio stations was where the city of New York has 15,000 snowplows just for the city. We might have 15 for the state. And if you've ever driven from the west side of Texas to the east side, you can drive for 12 hours and still be in the state at 85 mile an hour.
Right.
So it's a lot of roadway to cover. There were a lot of repeaters that were off the air. It was very interesting to hear. You and I talked about it. The interesting concept is while my access died through my house when my power went out through the internet, I still had connectivity through LTE devices and things like that. So my access went down, but still had a different portal somewhere else.
Yeah.
But repeater activity was fair. There was not a whole lot of emergency communication coordination going on because the cell phones and everything else seemed to work just fine. Just our power to most of the houses did not.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, flipping it over a little bit, you've also got the AH705 coming down the pipe here too. So what can you say about that? I know a lot of us have seen the images, and I've shown it on my channel during my live stream, and that's kind of going to be a fun thing for those with a 705. Or really, I mean, you can use it with just about any radio, right?
No, it's designed just for the 705. It is a QRP tuner.
Mm-hmm.
You did a great video on what all you get into your backpack, and I can see right now Skype is just muting everything against my green screen at this point.
It likes your red shirt, but once you turn, then it loses you a little bit.
Man,
you've got your backpack there. I see. Oh yeah, there it is. Oh, we got it. Okay, cool. Now
so
you've got.
I think you and I talked about it and had it on one of your shows to get an idea of the size. Now I've been working with my buddies at Radio Waves for a wire kit. I've already made a mess out of the coax and the control cable, but Radio Waves is working on an antenna kit that will do 40 through 6, and then another one that will do all the way down to 160 meters, as well as multiple length counterpoise. So it'll be a good grab and go package.
There's a picture on the website that I'm going to show up really quickly, and you had it with that little coax connector. I pulled that out when I saw it. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So this is a connector that comes with the tuner specifically for attaching a wire to it. Is that correct?
Yes. Just one second. Let me pull it back out of the backpack here.
Yeah, it's that little red tip there. It's got a PL259 coming out of the top, and that's where the wire connects to it. Next to it on the left-hand side is your radial, or the other side of the antenna you're running.
Yeah, that was an interesting connector that they've provided for it, where on the radio itself, I was thinking it would be something very similar to what we have on the AH4, but no, the tuner is capable of doing a 50 ohm antenna, or a dipole, or a long wire, random wire.
Okay. That's awesome. So that you've got multiple capabilities, basically whatever you want, and you said there's a wire kit specifically designed coming out for it. Is that something you just kind of get that up in the air and you're off and running pretty much, right?
Yeah. I mean, one end of it, I mean, even if you go with the old style banana plug for center connector.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Sure. All right. And then you said, and that's something I didn't realize. So it's specifically designed for the 705. I'm obviously looking at it now, and it does have a control cable, so that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's maximum 10 watts.
Maximum 10 watts. And I think you got to correct me. It's powered off of AA cells, correct?
Yes.
Do you know how long will it run with the AA cells?
Well, they're latching relays, so the only time it's going to pull any power is when you're actually doing the tune.
Oh, great.
So, and it's got a nice little compartment.
Oh, perfect. Okay, cool. So that's something that you can, you maybe keep an extra set in that backpack, but it should last you a long time.
Yes, and also around the door itself, there's a rubber gasket. So I wouldn't say it's submersible. Definitely not submersible because of the connections for the control cable and power on the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And again,
oh yeah,
Skype's
the rubber doors that go over the.
Yeah,
I think we've actually got a picture of that. I can probably pull up here. Yep, I do. So
I appreciate
the
that.
Of the doors, yeah. So you got the BNC. So this would be the bottom if you were lining this vertically. This would be the bottom that connects to the 705, and there's your control cable or your DC in. So that just bypasses the batteries, right?
Correct.
Okay. Very good.
And I haven't seen a schematic for it, but I would almost guarantee you that it's not going to be a chargeable type battery. So you're either running it off of the external 12-volt DC or using the two AA's internally.
Got it. Okay. Very good. And it is sized. I did show the backpack. You've got your Icom backpack there. It's sized to fit in there just fine. And in fact, I mean, given the size of it, you might even be able to put it kind of on its edge and put it in that backpack. Would that fit that way?
Yeah, that's exactly how I've got it. I've got it put to the side.
Very good. Cool. All right. What else is going on? Anything else you wanna bring up? Because we got some questions, I think, too. So if anybody has any questions for Ray, now's the time to drop them.
Well, on the antenna tuner, we're expecting to see a shipment come in this week, maybe next week. We'll be announcing the pricing to the dealers once we know they're coming in. I mean, right now, it's been the most chaotic to see product shipping in from Japan because they're running out of containers. Some countries, they're one-way shipping containers, so it's not cost effective to ship it back empty. So they're waiting for rotations, either new ones to be produced to ship the stuff in. But also, I think you covered in one of your ham radio crash courses about the AKM fire.
Yeah.
And we're seeing a lot of people being impacted from that, not only the audio industry, the automotive industry. It's caused a delay on the ID52. Icom has announced in Japan they will be releasing the ID52 again within the next couple of months. They have found a new supplier for the chips, but since they had not started shipping any outside of Japan, they're just focusing on the Japanese domestic market right now. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately, we do not have information on when the ID52 will be introduced or start to ship for the U.S. or outside of Japan. We've also run into a delay on some of the other product that we talked about, being the PW2. That's been put on the back burner because of COVID, just not being able to get in all the engineers and the teams that work on it in a same general area to work on this has been real tough with the lockdowns that they've done in Japan. And then the final thing is I'm working right now with third generation D-Star repeaters.
Okay.
So pretty excited about that product coming. It's it's MU track. There is a very simplified gateway controller built into it. So that's the hybrid part, but it also has the capability of doing D-Star, FM, and FM narrow. So we'll be looking at launching that probably May, June timeframe. We'll be looking at an introductory promotion for clubs that are wanting to get started with D-Star. So exciting things coming on that, 2 meter, 440, as well as 23 centimeter.
Very good. We did get a question. So back to the tuner. Could you use a AA battery pack externally into that external power port? Is it 12 volt only, or does it take a various amount of power?
It's 12 to 13.8 volt input. So
okay.
Usually it's plus or minus 15% from that. So no, not a 3 volts won't run it through the DC jack.
Okay. I think there's some people interested in hearing more about those repeaters. We'll definitely be talking about those in the future. But David asked, will the new repeaters have some sort of promo or trade-in type of thing? Are you even thinking about that yet?
Yeah, we are thinking about doing something. We just don't have the details yet. Looking at launching something in May to June timeframe.
Okay. Yeah, there's another question. Are you going to look at club upgrade promotions, all that stuff? I'm sure that's all on the table. You're still working through it.
Oh, yeah.
Right on. Okay. Well, anything else you'd like to hit? We're so glad you made it out. Ray's going to hang out a little bit while we run through the show. He's he's filling in a spot for us, so he's part of the panel today.
He is commentary.
That's right.
So I do have a couple more questions I caught, Ray. Can you use lithium batteries?
Have not seen anything about that as far as what the voltage range is for the AA. So whether people have got some AA NiCads laying around or the lithiums, I have no idea at this point. Okay. But the physical size is that of the AAs. So beyond that form factor, probably not.
Okay.
Okay. Right. And KC3RAA, Ronald Clark says, I ordered my 7300 March 6th and I received it today. So yay for you. Another person said, and I didn't catch their name, when I win the HRO drawing, will there be shipping delays? So when he wins his rig, it sounds like you will not have too many shipping delays, my friends. So, all right.
Yeah, the big item in that giveaway is a car. So I hope it's not any shipping delays.
Yeah, there'll be a delay in that. There's plenty of planning going on for that, and I don't think you have an idea where they were just giving you the cash and you had to go buy your own Corvette. No, this will be a wrapped vehicle. Icom radios installed. Not sure what antennas they're using or anything like that at this point.
Okay.
Awesome.
We'll know more about that in the future too, I assume. So, all right. Well, we're going to throw it over to Dawn and Amanda. We're going into our next interview. We got a lot going on today. And Ray, stick around and we'll keep chatting as we go through. And thanks again for coming on the show. Appreciate it. And the support for the show and the support for all of this, keeping it going. So thanks.
Well, I'm glad that somebody was able to pick up the production side of it and keep it going. And unfortunately, Don's hanging out like a lost puppy. You guys fed him one time and he keeps coming back, right?
There you go. Very true.
Man.
Speaking of Don.
Come on, Don. I know you're going to tear into me.
Well, let me flip it over so I can show you Don. So we'll just go right into it. Go for it, Don.
At least I'm house trained. Your wife's
yes,
still
sir.
working on that with you. So I didn't want to say anything, but I got to say something.
Poor Cindy.
Of course, those that see you from the camera don't know you like those of us that see you off camera, and we'll debate about that.
Yes, true. Looking forward to doing that in person at Huntsville coming up in a few months. I'm so excited about
sir.
That. Somebody else that we'll probably see at Huntsville is the gentleman there in the Tennessee Vols shirt. That's Kevin Duplantis, W4KEV. He's an expat from down here in Bayou country. Hurricane Katrina chased him up there. And Kevin has made quite a home for himself, not only professionally and family-wise, but ham radio-wise up in the Knoxville, Tennessee area. Kevin, tell us about, we've had you on before to talk about the linked repeater system, which is nothing short of amazing. You can touch on that briefly, but what we really want to talk about tonight is what you're doing with nets, and specifically a couple of nets, the Dixie Traders net, which has really caught fire. And then there's another net that you guys have during the day that is really doing something special. So tell us about Dixie Traders net.
Dixie Traders net, Don, for the last almost year and a half, has averaged between 120 and 140 check-ins per night, per Friday night.
Wow.
Phenomenal response. I think COVID had a lot to do with it because the lack of ability to go to Hamfest, but we still are getting people on a Friday night to check in. About a year or so ago, we were talking about, man, we'll have groups of hams that will come in, they'll get tested, and you might hear them for a week or two, and then they fade off. And we've been doing a great job of testing and getting new hams licensed, but we've failed dismally in retention. Okay, so a couple of us started talking and decided we need to do something. We need to reach out. We need to be the people who retain other hams. And so a couple of local guys, Jerry, and for IJL, Roger, and David, who is the state, what is it? Come on, I just had a brain stoppage. ARRL state section manager got together and they started to do a lunchtime net. Jerry wanted to find out who would be on at lunchtime. Let's just see who's out there listening. We know we have a lot of people listening, and sure enough, they came out the woodwork. New hams that had only been licensed a day or two at times were coming in droves. 50 check-ins. Now that's just check-ins. That's not including, all the discussions that we're having. We're not just doing check-ins. It's what kind of antennas are you running? What kind of radios are you running? Are you doing or getting involved in amateur events? And it brought them out the woodwork. It was just something to behold. And so that's what we've been focusing on, not just on my group of repeaters, but the repeaters in the area. In fact, we've started linking to other clubs, repeaters, to be more inclusive and to try and get guys who, let's say they hung out on a certain repeater and they just didn't want to go anywhere else. So instead of asking you to come to us, we'll go to you. I've set up links in that regard so that way people can feel comfortable where they're at and they don't feel like they're violating their the trusts with the repeaters that they've been used to. And it's a way to bring them out the woodwork, to get hams involved, and to be more inclusive. Key your mic, talk. That's what you got a license for, and that's what we're striving to do, is keep people active. And we've also gotten a lot of guys who have been out of the hobby for a while. A lot of people listen, but we're not getting a lot of talking. And so we decided to take it upon ourselves to be proactive and get the hams back on the radio.
I think that's the key to it, man. Just get somebody to get them to start yakking into that microphone. That's the hardest thing, I think, sometimes for new hams or for hams who maybe have been away and are coming back, and technology has changed or the people have changed or whatever. Just it's not the same experience that they had, and just to know that you're welcome, you're wanted, you're vital, and we're glad you're here is a whole lot. Now, you guys have a Facebook page. Where can people go on Facebook to find out more about this? Because I know you don't have a website, but you do have a pretty active Facebook presence, right?
We do have an active Facebook, but we're also implementing an email response setup where you would email, for instance, nets at Gmail, something along that line, and you would get an auto response of all the nets in the area. Because of the COVID situation where hams are not getting out to Hamfest like we were, the new guys are not getting able to meet anybody. So we're trying to get them as organized and involved as possible. So we have the Dixie Traders Net page on Facebook. You have the W4KEV page. Let's see, the W4BBB, which is the Radio Amateur Club of Knoxville. The 470 Amateur Radio Group has a wonderful Facebook page. A lot of places in East Tennessee and in the area. It's not just Knoxville. It's we're getting people all the way over from Nashville into Asheville, getting involved, seeing a resurgence of interest in actually doing what you got your license to do. And it's we've almost gone reclusive. I think the internet has caused a lot of people to be somewhat reclusive, and they're scared to talk on the mic. But once you get them engaged and you get a subject, man, they pop out. They just need that little bit of a little tease. And once you get them, once you got them hooked, man, they're in there talking. I mean, today we were talking about G5 RVs, something that Ray had touched on. I think they talked about a half an hour or 45 minutes about the delays in shipping on a lot of the amateur gear. Guys are, man, they're chomping at the bit. I said, well, good news. I finally got my G5 RV, and I've got my my TR4C that came tube type radio, ordered in 1965, but it finally came in.
And Kevin, I have some questions if you guys don't mind. one of the big things is a new ham here from Knoxville. So he's really excited to tune into this net. And what frequency is Dixie Traders net on? So I know that's a bit more complex of a question than that, but you want to try to explain it a little bit?
Yeah, I could roll through the frequencies real quick. Okay. The main repeater is 145.370. It has a 100 hertz tone. If you're in west to middle Tennessee, you would use 147.345, and that has a 118.8 tone. That covers everywhere from Nashville into parts of East Tennessee. If you're in the Gatlinburg, East Tennessee mountain area, you would use 147.195, and that has a 100 hertz tone. And I just lost all my pictures. And then if you're anywhere between the northeastern part of Tennessee over into North and South Carolina, you would use 145.410, and that has a 127.3 tone. All of those are linked together, and we periodically through the week will link to other repeaters that we are compatible with, meaning that I can hook into them and get a good signal, and we can work everything out. But it's all about inclusiveness. It's all about, we're trying to encourage other clubs. Get on there. Find your guys who are talkers, who have the ability to interact and bring hams into conversation, and get them to stir up the crowd. And once we get them engaged, get them involved in the hobby, find things for them to do. Just conversation in general will bring out more conversation with other hams.
Absolutely. And bless you guys for doing kind of this like health and wellness net. I know a lot of people around the country have been doing these. Always, because Jeff and I are repeater owners. I know it's so hard. How do you get funding for all of this? How do you keep these repeaters maintained? I know I've asked you this before, but we've got a lot of new viewers, so they need to know.
I donate a lot of plasma. That's why I feel weak.
It's a true statement, though. It costs a lot of money to keep this up. And my second thing is that this is why you need to follow them on Facebook and things like that, so you can learn what frequency you should be on, because you're going to see kind of their list and things like that. Very important for you to stop trying to use the one that's 150 miles away, where you're going to come in and sound awful on your HT. Right. Make sure you're using the right frequency. So those were a couple of my questions. Don, go ahead.
Yeah, Ray Novak posted also as well in the chat room a great, I don't know why I didn't think about this. Look up W4KEV on QRZ.com. There's a lot of great information on Kevin's QRZ page. Kevin, I think what you're doing is amazing. It's something that, it's quite not frankly,
me, Don. It's all the other guys. I'm a small part. That's all I am. I'm just a facilitator. The big push has come from the guys in the area, and our state ARRL section manager has really led the charge. All these guys have done a wonderful job. I'm just in the background making sure everything works.
We'll refer to that as the royal you. That's you and everybody else involved in this. Yes. You guys are doing some amazing things, and quite frankly, there are a lot of clubs, I think, who could stand to get up off their butts and do this kind of stuff, because it's really not difficult. It's just, okay, you need a couple of guys to man the radio to start committing to some nets and start planting those seeds and see what pops up, like mushrooms after a rain. It's amazing how fast it can grow.
That's right. It just takes a little bit of committal.
Yeah, that's exactly right. All right, Kevin, go through the websites again, the Facebook pages again, and of course your QRZ page at W4KEV. What are the Facebook pages again?
I also forgot to mention MTEARS, which is spelled MTEARS. It's a Tennessee statewide Facebook page. Kind of gives you an idea of what the state does and how we partner with other repeater owners to actually give you UHF connectivity across the state. There's the W4KEV Facebook page, and then there's the Dixie Traders Net Facebook page. They all give you a sample of what we do. The 470 Amateur Radio Group is another great page, got a lot of information on nets, things that are happening in this part of the world. But we also try to connect over Echolink and All-Star. All-Star has really helped us to branch out. We don't want to go too far out. We want to keep people in the area. That way they can meet each other. And when you go to Hamfest, you know the people you're talking to. You know, you don't want to go to a ham fest and not be familiar. Now you're familiar with people, you get to communicate, and that's what we're here for. And we also encourage a lot of other activities as well that we're starting to branch out into.
Well, I got to tell you, your repeaters work great. We were up in the Pigeon Forge area in October, and I brought my HT, and great coverage up in East Tennessee, getting all across the state. So, Kevin, thanks for being with us tonight, and again, congratulations to you and everybody else involved. And check him out. Check out the M Tiers. Check out W4KEV. All that stuff on Facebook, and get involved. That's the thing. Get a grassroots thing in your local club, and get involved. Commit to starting a couple of nets, and get on the radio, and will be amazed that he'll come back to you.
Get on the radio.
Kevin Duplantis, W4KEV up in Knoxville. Thank you, my friend. It's always good to have you on here.
I love you.
I know you do. Everyone does, and hopefully we'll see you in Huntsville coming up in August.
I'll be there.
And someone did mention, Don, that they might hear your famous voice on that repeater system.
On occasion, yes. I've been known to pop in via recorded message with my smart aleck remarks. Yeah, it could happen and does on a daily basis. Yeah. All right. Kevin, thanks a lot. Josh, back over to you, my friend.
The great outdoors is calling. Get outside and under the stars with one of Icom's ultimate SDR transceivers. Stay connected while off the grid. The IC705 is a perfect transceiver for hams who want to enjoy both the great indoors and outdoors. It's the perfect QRP companion. This transceiver has features and functions at the tips of your fingers in a portable package covering HF, 6 meters, 2 meters, 70 centimeters, and the weight is just under 2 pounds. 4.3-inch color touchscreen with live band scope and waterfall. 5 watts with BP 272 battery, or 10 watts with 13.8 volts DC input. Create your own band opening with the IC9700. This transceiver brings direct sampling to the VHF-UHF weak signal world. This all-mode transceiver is loaded with innovative features that are sure to keep you busy. 4.3-inch color touchscreen with real-time high-speed spectrum scope and waterfall display. Smooth satellite operation with 99 satellite channels. And it supports dual watch operation and full duplex operation in satellite mode. Visually sees the VHF-UHF world with Icom's IC9700. Heard it, worked it, logged it. Icom's IC7300 is a high-performance, innovative HF transceiver with a compact design that will far exceed your expectations. This innovative HF transceiver digitizes RF before various receiver stages to reduce the generated inherent noise in different IF stages. Icom's IC7300 is a radio that changed the way entry-level HF is designed. Visit icomamerica.com/amateur for more information on all the great Icom radios.
And yeah, thanks again, Icom, for that. And hey, I got my mic working again, so that's always fun. I muted everything because somebody said there was a reverb, so I started freaking out. Well, guys, also keep in mind, too, that Icom is running a giveaway that you can find very easily by going to ICOMAmerica.com/Ham Nation. After every show, they'll pick some winners for swag, and every month there will be a radio giveaway. This month, it was a Icom IC2730A, which went to Anna Goforth, K4BAX. And the swag for this week went to Edward Fry, this episode went to Edward Fry, N3EDF, Douglas Crandall, KB9ZWL, and Jim Kobe, KB7YVW. So yeah, just make sure you go to the link, which is in the description for this video. That'll take you to the sign up for the giveaway. It's free to enter, and you can enter once per Ham Nation. Thanks again, Icom, for the support. We're going to flip it over now. We're going to talk to Joe about hand tools. So are you ready to take it away, Joe?
You bet, Josh. And top of the evening to you from Lincoln, Nebraska. And we'll start off here. We're going to talk a little bit about the hand tools that a kit builder should have on hand. And there's a lot more than just what we're going to show tonight. But These are kind of the basics, and we'll go into a few more advanced tools. So if you can put that up, there we go. There we go. All right. So we're going to start from the left. So we're going to start from the simple hand tools you ought to have on hand. Number one on the left is a regular pair of pliers. You're going to need those, but they're very useful. In kit building, in holding things straight, things like that, things like that, while you're holding a screw in on the case, things like that. So a good pair of regular pliers is a must. A lot of kits involve either multi-conductor cable, and the next tool is a cable cutter. Now, what makes it different than a pair of dikes is that it makes a much cleaner cut. In fact, I used the heck out of these when I was removing all the old coax from my station during the big upgrade. And I'm going to show some close-ups of these in a little bit. Vice grips, and then, of course, a multifunction screwdriver and a regular Phillips screwdriver. So let's take a little closer look. This is what these things look like when they're open, and you can get these at Home Depot, Menards, Lowe's, places like that. Look in the department where they have your cable TV and telephone and network wiring. You will find these kind of cutters. Now, they, like I said, they look different than your normal dikes, but they do a much, much better job. They don't end up pulling the center conductors or things like that. It makes a very clean cut and not very expensive at all. But like I said, most often you'll find that at your big box type stores or some of the stores that deal with networking and so forth. The vice grips, this looks pretty big, but it really isn't. This is a 4-inch vice grip. Now, when you're working with small kits, sometimes you need to hold something steady or in addition to the board and so forth. This is a vice grip 4WR, and you used to not be able to get those. In fact, for decades, the only way you could get a pair of these is to know somebody who worked for vice grips in DeWitt, Nebraska, where they used to be made. Now they're all made elsewhere, and so you can get the 4WR. Now what that is, it's a 4-inch vice grip. This is the smallest that they make. Very, very useful once again for kit building. So always take a look at those. And they're also good for holding coax connectors when you're putting in the sleeve and things like that. But it's a number 4WR. You can find it in assortments at some of your hardware stores, but online you can actually order the 4WR separately now. This is that screwdriver that was next to the right. I took it apart so you can see all the pieces. This is a Craftsman 41161. Once again, a Craftsman 41161. And once again, you don't have Sears stores everywhere anymore, so Ace Hardware stores have Craftsman tools, as does Menards and a few other hardware chains. The 41161 has a set of larger Phillips and straight blade and a smaller one. So you have a number 1 and a number 2. And the shaft also has a 1/4-inch nut driver, and I can't remember what the other size of the other one is. But it's actually 6 tools in one. And a lot of hardware stores and big box stores, if they don't have this particular one, they sometimes have their own brand that does exactly the same thing. And it comes apart in 4 pieces. And it's very, very useful because sometimes you have the little tiny screws that need a number 1 Phillips. Sometimes you need a number 2, or you need a straight or something like that, or a nut driver to hold the nut in place. So this tool does a lot for the money, and they're usually not very expensive, like $10 or $12. And of course, you have the regular Phillips as well. Now we're going to look at some tuning tools, and this is kind of a close-up of the end of one. You can see it is plastic except for a very tiny metal blade at the end. And that's because we don't want to have any capacitance interfering with your tuning in your kit when you're trying to align it and things like that. So if you've got a kit that has trimmer capacitors, you ought to have a set of tuning tools. And these are not expensive either. I saw a set, I think, from Jameco and a few other vendors, and not very expensive at all. We'll take a look at a kind of a wider variety. The two on the left are ceramic tips, and they're completely plastic shafts. So, of course, you're not going to get your hand capacitance or metal involved. And then you see a set of different sizes and shapes of different tuning tools. And then you see the longer one that we were looking at on the right. And let's take a look here. And there's the end of the other, actually the opposite end of that tool. And you can see it's recessed because sometimes the trimmer capacitor or something has a protruding head or something. And sometimes it's a lot easier to get a better grip on it and make a nice steady adjustment. Let's see here. All right. Now we're going to go take a look at some of the hand tools that you really ought to have. I like these Play-Dohs because they're inexpensive. They're anywhere from $5 to $7 or $8 for these wire cutters, and these are not your normal dikes. And the reason we want to use a cutter like this, they're sometimes called flush cutters, because they make a nice, sharp, even cut real close to the board. So you don't have any sharp edges sticking up out of the bottom of the board after you've soldered. You got to be really careful when you're using those because pieces go flying, so make sure you're wearing some kind of safety glasses when you use those. They do come in different sizes and characteristics. As you can see, there's a simple one, the Model 170 up above, and then down below the 170LX, which has a larger and more padded hand grips. So it depends on your hand size and so forth and what you're comfortable with, but the blades are pretty much the same. On the right, kind of at the top, is the Exolite needle nose pliers. Those are really excellent. The spring isn't too strong so that you don't end up with hand cramps using that all day. And kind of at the lower right is probably the simplest, cheapest. I find these things at electronics stores, surplus stores and so on, for usually about $2 or so, $2 or $3 for one of these. That's a simple wire stripper, and you adjust it by moving the sliding screw up and down. But a lot of times I've just learned how to strip wires just by the feel of it. And so you're always going to need a wire stripper. There are lots of different sizes of wire strippers, but this is the most simple, and nothing on this screen costs more than $10, and very inexpensive, and stuff that you really need when you're building kits. Of course, you're going to need some smaller screwdrivers. Now, if you go to a store like your hardware store, sometimes they have the Craftsman sets or other screwdriver sets like at Menards and Lowe's and Home Depot and places like that, or even Harbor Freight, where you get like 8 or 10 different kinds of screwdrivers in one set. And that's kind of helpful so that you have the right size available. But as you can see, some of these screwdrivers are real small, and you will need those because there are things like knobs that have set screws. Now, sometimes the set screws are hex, and you'll need a small set of metric or standard hex keys, but most often it's usually a little Phillips or straight screw. And so small screwdrivers are a must. Yep. All right. And finally, let's look at this. Some of the most important tools for kit builders are free. I was at a recent home show, and I grabbed a ruler, and I grabbed some of those emery boards. The emery boards we use for cleaning off enameled wire when you're doing toroids and making connections nice and shiny and so forth, and getting them prepped before you tin them. A lot of times I need a ruler because it'll tell me to cut a piece of wire to 3.5 inches and then strip the insulation from 1/4 inch of either side. Well, got to have a ruler nearby. And so something like this that you find as a freebie is good to keep on the bench. A lot of toroids will have a specification, might say cut 9 inches of enameled wire and wrap it 14 times around the toroid or something like that, and then use the emery board. So once again, those two tools are free. Just got to look for them. And yes, we actually had some shows here in the last couple of weeks. Kind of interesting. And this is kind of a combination set. and I have not been able to find this particular one recently, but I know there are similar ones being sold now. What this is it's a small device repair kit, and it's got a lot of tools that you would really want to use for kit building. It has precise Phillips and straight screwdrivers and mini torques and spudging tools that you can use to get bezels off or fixing a cell phone and things like that, popping things open in a laptop. It's got a X-Acto knife in it, which is very useful. There's a lot of times in kit building that you might need to make a modification to a circuit board or something. It's always good to have an X-Acto knife. And tweezers, they're wonderful to have different sizes of tweezers on hand for a surface mount part and things like that. So that is it with the tool time, Josh. And I think I'm done screwing around. And by the way, I'll tell Ray that I put the firmware in the 7300 and the 9700 this week. So back to you, Josh, and we'll see if we've got me back on the screen.
Yeah, wonderful hat, by the way, too, Joe. I'll just keep it on you for a second just so we can get more airtime with that great hat you have. That's fantastic. Amanda, did you see any questions in the chat? I was looking out there a little bit. Lots of good comments on your tools. You got some good, robust tools there.
I do have some funny comments. Not sure what happened to you viewers on chat, but they seriously turned into Beavis and Butthead listening to your segment. That's all I can say is number 1 and number 2 and a lot of other things. You guys, seriously. Other thing, you're MacGyver. So he says, I've seen all of these tools on every bomb demolition in movies, and they always cut the right wire with 1 second left. So.
Yep, that's right. That's right. And as long as my kits don't blow up, I'm real happy.
I did buy this recently. This is actually, I'll go to a bigger shot here so you can see it. This is a Wera or Vera, depending on how you pronounce it, Tool Check Plus. And it's got a ton of bits in there that it actually will pop out if you use this little switch. It'll pop out there, and you've got access to the front and the back, and it comes with a small, little cute socket wrench. So these were pretty nice for everything, not just kit building. I use that for a lot of stuff. So that's a big...
I think next time, I think I'm going to talk about meters and small test equipment that we use for kit building. And so we can progress and make sure everybody knows what to get. And then we'll start talking about some more kits.
I love it.
Yay.
All right. Well, Don, I think it's time for the Amateur Radio Newsline.
Yeah, and we've got a good report for you tonight, and Dr. Tamitha Scove has a particularly good report for you. So let's go ahead and roll that beautiful bean footage. From Amateur Radio Newsline Report number 2263, these are the Ham Nation headlines for Wednesday, March 7th, 2021. We begin this week with a story of a long-awaited accomplishment, a successful high-flying experiment conducted by a group of innovative amateurs in Australia.
Members of the Amateur Radio Experimenters Group in Adelaide, Australia are celebrating the much-anticipated launch of Horus 55, a high-altitude balloon sent aloft on the morning of March 7 with a digital amateur radio TV transmitter as its payload. As the balloon soared skyward after a brief launch delay due to rain, it relayed its TV signal to YouTube in a live stream that was broadcast worldwide. The TV transmitter payload, which was the main experiment, required extensive testing before launch day, especially with regard to its tolerance for low temperatures. It utilised a Raspberry Pi Zero-W which captured and compressed video for the modulation of a 445 MHz DVB-S transmission generated by a Lime SDR Mini. Horus 55 also carried an experimental low-Ra-WAN tracking payload transmitted position data into TTN, the Things network, which has receiver stations across Australia. It too was a success, according to the AREG website. To watch the experiment unfold and soar, visit the YouTube site that appears in the script of this week's newscast at arnewsline.org. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Graham Kemp, VK4BB.
Astronaut hams aboard the International Space Station are trying to rectify some issues with the new ham radio station.
As Newsline went to production, astronauts aboard the International Space Station were preparing for 2 spacewalks to troubleshoot and restore the full functionality of the Columbus Interoperable Radio System for ham radio contacts. Technical issues, what ARIS is calling a radio anomaly, turned up on January 28th after a failed radio contact with students in Wyoming. At a press conference on Wednesday, March 10th, ARIS Frank Bauer, KA3HDO, and Oliver Amend, DG6BCE, outlined in detail how the investigation identified 3 probable areas where the failure may have occurred, including a break in one of the cables, trouble with one of the connectors, or improper alignment of the connector with the system itself. Michael Hopkins, KF5LJG, and Victor Glover, KI5BK, were scheduled to continue the troubleshooting outside the ISS on Saturday, March 13th, and Sunday, March 14th. Work that was to include reinstalling the cable that has been swapped out during the January 27th spacewalk. Frank said that if there were still problems after the weekend, there were other options to investigate, including another possible suspect cable or the radio itself.
Newsline anchor Stephen Kinford, N8WB. Concerns over COVID-19 have altered some plans for young amateurs in IARU Region 1.
While planning remains carefully optimistic in the United States for the first youth ham radio camp in the Americas, organisers elsewhere in IARU Region 1's Youth Working Group have announced a modified schedule in response to COVID-19 measures. In-person IARU Region 1 youth events on the calendar before the end of June will not take place, and any activities set for later in the year are subject to review as conditions evolve. Youngsters on the Air in Region 1 has meanwhile been hosting a number of online workshops, including a recent session on SOTA, worldwide flora and fauna, and other outdoor operating activities. The announcement by Alex, IV3KKW, on the IARU Region 1 website noted that the rollout of vaccines will be monitored, as will the development of further variants of the coronavirus. Events on the calendar for the second half of the year will remain in place for the time being. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Jeremy Boot, G4NJH.
Meanwhile, the nominating period for the 2021 Newsline Bill Pasternak WA6ITF Young Ham of the Year Award is now open. You'll find the nominating form and all information on our website, arnewsline.org. The presentation will take place at the Huntsville Hamfest in August. More information on the Huntsville Hamfest can be found at hamfest.org. And that's all from the Amateur Radio Newsline, your independent source for amateur radio news for 4 decades and counting at arnewsline.org. With Graham Kemp, VK4BB, Stephen Kinford, N8WB, Jeremy Boot, G4NJH, Karen Eve Murray, KD2GUT at the news desk in New York, and our news team across the globe, I'm Don Wellbanks, AE5DW. 7-3. Happy St. Patrick's Day, and we'll see you next time here on Ham Nation. Now, here's the solar update from a fine Irish lass, Dr. Tamitha Scove, WX6SWW.
We have multiple bright regions emerging on the Earth-facing disk that are boosting that solar flux, and we have multiple coronal holes. One of them is in the Earth strike zone. Those stories and more in the news this week. This space weather forecast is sponsored in part by Millersville University. Come get certified in broadcast space weather. Visit millersville.edu/SWEN. Space weather this week is definitely getting interesting. We don't have an active sun yet, but as we take a look at our front-sided disk, you can see we've got a lot of bright regions emerging in Earth view, both in the south and in the north. In fact, we have this one bright region that's been firing off a few little mini solar flares, and then of course it begins to die and fizzle a little bit. This one was never really a sunspot, so it never got a designation. The big one is actually region 2808. That's the bigger one that's closer to the east limb there. That region is really what's been boosting the solar flux up into the high 70s. We were hoping it was going to get to the high, either the low 80s, but didn't quite make it there. But I believe we're going to be sitting with the solar flux continuing to stay in the high 70s easily over the course of this week, mainly because we have so many of these active regions. Meanwhile, we also have a coronal hole, this finger-like coronal hole. This thing is rotating into the Earth strike zone right now. We're already beginning to see the effects from this, from the fast solar wind from this coronal hole, and it could easily bump us up to storm levels at high latitudes and maybe give a skosh of a chance of aurora at mid latitudes, but it won't last all that long, maybe about a day before things begin to calm down. But if you take a look at the east limb on the sun, you could actually see another dark hole. That region is the big, long-awaited coronal hole that about a month ago gave us some sustained storming and brought some gorgeous aurora views down to mid-latitudes. And it looks like this hole has survived its far-sighted passage on the sun, and it's rotating back into view, and in about 10 days or so, we could get that same kind of storming all over again. Switching to our M-flare threat meter, you can see where the X-ray flux has been sitting right about the B floor over the past few days. In fact, we actually even have popped a few small flares. In fact, the C-class flare that you see here back on the 9th, that was due to region 2808 as it was rotating into Earth view. But since then, things have kind of fizzled just a little bit. In fact, you can even see in the X-ray flux, that floor has kind of dropped a little bit. That does mean that the solar flux by proxy has also dropped. We didn't make it into the low 80s like we were hoping, but we are managing to hold on to the high 70s, and these will continue. This condition will continue easily over the next few days. In fact, we do have another region that's going to be rotating into Earth view here probably over the next 4 or 5 days. So easily we will maintain the mid to high 70s for solar flux, and that's decent news for amateur radio operators and emergency responders. We should maintain marginal radio propagation on Earth's day side easily over this next week. Switching to our solar storm conditions and aurora possibilities over the coming week, we are being hit by that fast solar wind from that coronal hole that's been rotating in through the Earth strike zone, and it has popped us up to active conditions multiple times over the past couple days. As a matter of fact, these conditions could likely continue easily over the next day or so. At high latitudes, NOAA is expecting at least unsettled conditions, but we have up to about a 30% chance of a major storm, and that could last easily through the rest of this weekend and before it begins to die down early in the beginning of the week. But we also have another pocket of fast solar wind that'll pick up about midweek. So at high latitudes, we might be storming on and off easily through the next 5 days or so. Now, mid latitudes, we are also only expecting unsettled conditions, but we still have about a 25% chance of active conditions over the next day or two, and then things will settle down reasonably quickly, and it'll be kind of sporadic, a little touch and go at mid latitudes. But again, around midweek, we have another chance for a small pocket of fast solar wind to hit us from that other finger-like coronal hole, and that could pop us up again to active conditions, but it's only going to last for a moment or so. But then, believe it or not, in about 10 days or so, we should have a much bigger chance at mid-latitudes for aurora when that much larger coronal hole will come through the Earth strike zone, and it will send us some decent fast wind, and that could give us some sustained aurora down at mid-latitudes. So aurora photographers, be sure to keep your batteries charged. And I wanted to take a moment because I've been so incredibly humbled by what has transpired over the past couple days. Thanks to the Hamvention Awards Committee, I have been honored with the 2021 Technical Achievement Award. And this has been most unexpected, and I couldn't help but give a little public shout out to a few people who've meant so much to me. And this, of course, means the Hamvention Awards Committee. Thank you so much for embracing me and as part of the amateur radio community. I know I have not been a ham for all that long, but it means so much to me to have a call sign and to be able to enjoy this hobby with you. And a special thanks to Michael Coulter, W8CI. I've enjoyed our email correspondences as well as seeing you in person. You've always been an inspiration. And Frank Biafor, WS8B, thank you so much, Frank, for this honor. Honestly, I can't wait to meet you in person. And of course, to a good friend, Tim Duffy, K3LR, thank you for all the encouragement and all the support, even before I was an amateur radio operator. I appreciate everything you've done for me to get me involved in this hobby. And of course, thanks to Don Wilbanks. It's a special thanks to him, AE5DW. You were the one that brought me into the Amateur Radio Newsline family. You introduced me to amateur radio, and you got me to do space weather reports on Ham Nation. And that's another one, thanks to the Ham Nation crew, including Bob Heil, K9EID. I've been a fan of yours for much longer than I've actually been your space weather girl. So it's been a pure pleasure and an honor of mine to be able to serve as a member of Ham Nation. And then finally to Mike Sage, KN6 Echo Whiskey Mike. You've been my Elmer. You were the one that got me on the air. And hopefully you're going to be the one that's going to get me through that general and possibly even my extra. And I can't wait for it, especially as Solar Cycle 25 ramps up. So thank you all. I have been humbled, amazed, and I couldn't be more pleased to be part of this wonderful family. So the space weather this week, while it's not all that busy, well, it's not all that quiet either. We have a bunch of bright regions on the Earth-facing disk, including region 2808, which is a sunspot right now. And earlier this week, it did fire off a C-class flare before it began to fizzle a little bit. So that's good news in the sense that we don't have a lot of flare activity. We don't have a lot of solar storm activity either right now, but we have boosted that solar flux and keep it in the high 70s for amateur radio operators and emergency responders, which means marginal radio propagation on Earth's day side is here to stay. Plus, we have a new region that's going to be rotating into Earth view here in the next 4 to 5 days, and that will continue to keep that solar flux boosted well over this week and possibly into next week as well. Now, we also have a small coronal hole that's rotating in through the Earth strike zone right now. We are already beginning to some of its effects in the fast solar wind that's coming. However, this is a small pocket of fast solar wind, so it means aurora photographers at high latitudes, you're going to be able to get a show of aurora. But if you're at mid latitudes, you may not want to chase after this one because the show may be over before it even begins, basically. And we're going to have this pocket of fast solar wind, and then we're going to have another one in another couple of days, and it's going to be the same kind of thing at mid latitudes. It's going to be very fleeting shows, so only if you're dedicated should you chase, because we actually have a bigger coronal hole that's going to be rotating into Earth strike zone in about 2 weeks or so that could give us some sustained fast solar wind, and that is going to be when we're going to see aurora really dip down to mid latitudes. Cross your fingers, right? All right, and also as far as your GPS users are concerned, you know, things are looking pretty good for you right now. The solar flux isn't super high and the flare activity is pretty low, and we're also reasonably quiet with solar storms. We're going to have a little bit of activity here over this next 24 hours and then again in another couple days, but it's going to be really fleeting. So it shouldn't affect GPS reception all that much, except if you happen to be underneath the aurora or anywhere near those dawn dust terminators. Just be aware your reception may be a little bit glitchy. I'm Tamitha Skov, the Space Weather Woman. Thank you for watching.
Another great report from the Newsline people, and especially Dr. Tamitha Skov. Congratulations to her on the Technical Achievement Award. Well deserved. She's only been a ham for a couple of years, but you can tell that she has ingratiated herself to the amateur radio community and to us particularly, and we're mighty proud and honored to have her on the team. So thank you, Dr. T. Make sure you follow her on Twitter. Send her a congratulatory message via direct message on Twitter. She'll get it, and I bet you she'll respond. She's always on Twitter. That's a great way to interact with her. At Tamitha Skov, and of course check out spaceweatherwoman.com. Josh, that's all I have for tonight.
All right, thank you so much, everybody. Well, that's pretty much all the segments we had, so that means it's time to check out the chat room. Did we get any extra chats or anything, Amanda, that came up here at the end?
Oh my gosh, well, like 1,000 shout outs to Dr. T for saying congratulations, which is well deserved, by the way. She should have probably won this last year, I think. And so glad that she recognized it and that she's here for us. And we're not worthy of having her on the team.
That's for sure. I'm not. That's for sure.
Or any part of amateur radio. She's just amazing all the way around. I did want to say two things. Yeah, we had a person missing tonight. Gordo, we had so much content. Gordo stepped aside and said, "You guys take it. You've got this handled." So I want to say sorry that we didn't have any short shots from Gordo, but he's here, probably wearing a green bow tie, watching the show. Am I right? Also, I wanted to shout out to Kevin KC7FPF, who is one of our net controls on 40 meters. He had this great, he wanted to show us a bunch of slide shots as well on an event they did this weekend. And Kevin, I'm so sorry, I just didn't have time, but I'm going to get you in the next show, buddy. And I can't wait to talk about what you and Al at K1LTJ, you guys all remember him, right? So we're going to show it. Don't worry about that. Let's talk about some nets. We've got 40 meters, and I didn't see Steve, W7UDI, in chat, so I asked. I don't know if he has transitioned to 20 meters yet or if he's still on 75. So come on, Steve, shout out on chat. Anyhow, join our other nets. We've got D-Star, one of the more popular ones on 14 Charlie, and check out around 7192 for 40 meters. And Steve could be on 14268 this evening. So check that out if propagation allows. If not, look around 3910 or so on 75 meters. With that, it's been an awesome show. It's gone a little long, but I appreciate everybody. Josh, I know you're gonna head over to Discord, are you not?
I am, but we've got, this is obviously St. Patrick's Day, so my wife has made dinner that I'm going to be trying to get some of that before hopping onto the after chat. So join us over on Discord. That's where we host it. That reminded me of something too. Now that they fixed the amateur radio, the ISS station's antenna, you imagine when you have a problem with your antenna at home, you just go to the backyard and work on it. Can you imagine having to do a spacewalk because you used the wrong coax line? That's a pretty serious one. So I'm glad that's up and running again, though. So yeah.
And how long was that spacewalk? It was like what, 6 hours?
Something like that.
Yeah, that's a tough thing. You got to be careful with that.
Did they get the replacement cable at DX Engineering? That's what I want to know. They probably did because they carry everything else. Hey, in honor of St. Patrick's Day, I wanted to kind of close the show off with a few traditional Irish toasts. So in honor of St. Patrick's Day, let me share with our Ham Nation crew and our guests, and of course everybody watching and those in the chat room. May you live as long as you want and never want as long as you live. That the roof above us never fall in, and that we be friends gathered below never fall out. May those who love you, and those who don't love you, may God turn their hearts, and if he doesn't turn their hearts, may he turn their ankles so you'll know them by their limp. And finally, may your neighbors respect you, trouble and neglect you, the angels protect you, and heaven accept you. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Schlank.
Thanks so much, and we'll talk to you again soon. 73.
73.
Good night, everybody.
73.
73. Hey, Don, aren't you the one responsible for getting Dr. Scove ready to do ham radio?